Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Reanimated. It's episode 369-ish. I'm Stuart in California, and joining us today is H.A. Conrad in New York. Hello, H.A.
Hello, hello.
What is the last thing that you were outside doing?
Well, I am fresh from seeing a viewing of Renfield at Nighthawk Cinema, and am happy to discuss it with you because I think you saw it last night, right?
I did see it last night at the Airport Stadium. It doesn't have a
What
cool
is
name.
that?
That's just the movie theater. It's on Airport Boulevard. It's not actually at the airport, but needless to say, it's my closest theater now that my in-town one has shuttered. Um,
Hmm.
so c'est la vie. You saw it at the illustrious Nighthawk. Did it live up to all of your expectations?
The movie or the Nighthawk?
The the Nighthawk.
So, it depends. So this was not one of the bigger movies that I guess is in the theater right now. So they have some smaller theaters, and um it's fine, but like our projector setup here is actually kind of close to what they had going on. So
Ooh,
yeah. But our projector setup is really good, so that's actually, not a negative thing on the Nighthawk, more of a positive thing about our setup
your
here.
own setup. Yeah,
Um,
but yours is at like how many feet versus theirs is
yeah,
probably from like
yeah.
40 feet away, I would hope.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not quite that, but anyway, it was fine. But I love the Nighthawk. They do a great job, and they do really fun sort of trailers going into it. And this film has reference upon reference and lots of homages, in my opinion. And the people at the Nighthawk know that, so they had these like really fun lead-ins, including just I think to be a little bit silly, but Nick Cage was in a vampire film in the 80s, I think. And so they had footage from that. It was with Jennifer Beals. Um,
Really?
yeah, and it was pretty pretty rough, but pretty awesome as well. It was called Vampire's Kiss, apparently.
Don't
Um,
I don't remember
and
that at all.
yeah, me neither. And yes, it was from 1988. I just gotta pinged it. And so they had that. They had a bunch of other things that were pretty cool. And so that was kind of like a fun lead in, and a good crowd. Everybody was having a lot of fun with this film, watching it.
Man, I
So
had such like a conventional movie going experience where you just watch some trailers, some ads for local businesses.
mhm.
And then yeah, I got to see the Last Voyage of the Demeter trailer on the big screen, and then some
Oh,
other like the choice of trailers was pretty weird. It was a lot of like rated R trailers for comedies.
huh.
Did do you remember if did you have a variety of trailers, or do they do things very
So
differently at the
they
Nighthawk?
did things very differently. I mean, there were a few trailers, but they tended to be mostly horror or like there's a weird one coming out with Joaquin Phoenix. Beau is not afraid, or Beau is
Oh
afraid,
yeah,
or
I've seen
something.
that online, not in the theater. That looks weird.
Yeah, it looks really strange. So that was one of them. And that was, and there was the other one that's like I've seen this trailer a few times, and I honestly cannot pull the name right now to save my life. It's the one that it's another like Evil Dead kind of a movie with the
Oh,
mom.
the really freaky looking one that we've
Yeah.
seen that trailer. We've talked about that. That does look
Yeah.
that kind of I'm a little mad at that movie because that movie basically kicked Last Train from New York and Salem's Lot out of the calendar, the release
Yep.
schedule. I was kind of
Yeah.
looking forward to both of those. So and instead
What was it? Rise of Evil Dead or something? I think it's
Evil Dead Rise, or yeah, something along those
yeah.
lines.
And anyway, I didn't enjoy this trailer any more than the first time I saw it. And
No,
you,
that's a hard trailer to watch, man.
yep, yep.
All right.
So there was that one, and but all in good, all in good fun.
Yeah.
So yeah. So do you want to chat? Let's chat about Renfield.
About good Renfield. Okay. So going into this, I had no idea. about this revelation that I had when the credits started rolling, and I see co-written or something along those lines story by Robert Kirkman.
I did know that, but
Of
I
course you
thought
did.
you did
No,
as well. So
I don't. I try not to read stuff about movies. I mean, if it's not like out there. And I noticed as soon as I was leaving the theater that there was like interview with the cast, and there's Robert Kirkman sitting there with them. That
yeah.
was surprising to me, and it did not feel a, a lot like some. I mean, maybe it does. I'm just glad to see that he's like still mixing it up. This was like his own original pitch. I would say for like cast wise, this is a cool cast. First of all, like
Mhm.
wow, Nicolas Cage, Nicholas Hoult, Awkwafina, Ben Schwartz, and others. Uh,
Oh gosh, it's
and
so many. I mean,
Shohreh
I was about to
Aghdashloo.
say, yeah, she's amazing. Uh,
Uh, yeah,
she's really good in this. And then also Brennan Scott Jones, who's been he's like a character actor, in a bunch of stuff, but like he was the
the
therapist
support
guy.
groups. Yeah, he was good. The
Yeah.
support group in general for like actors with very little to do, they really dialed it up, and they were doing great. I enjoyed their performances too,
Yeah, they did a good job.
as well as Rebecca's partner.
Oh
What's his
yeah.
name?
Yeah, I don't know what his name was, but the actor's name is Adrian Martinez.
Yeah,
He was awesome.
when he got the coke thrown in his face.
Yep.
It was just chortling. It was a chortle. The loud breather sitting next to me did not chortle at all. But
People were like really loudly laughing throughout this film. It was a very interactive audience. It was kind
yeah,
of awesome. So that was fun.
I kind of feel like this role for Nicholas Hoult echoes quite strongly with the role of his that we are least fond of.
So I was going to bring this up, and I'm wondering if Nicholas Hoult has a bingo card that he's going through and wants to play all the different kind of monsters.
Mm-hmm.
He's done zombie, he's done vampire. I wouldn't it's not quite werewolf. I mean, he was Beast in Young Beast in X-Men. Um,
Yeah,
you
it was just
know,
the warm bodies vibes were so strong with this role where he's like
yeah.
bad guy but slowly becoming good guy,
Well, it's that,
stuff.
but it was a little bit, I don't know. Yes, but I think this was done a lot better.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's not. I'm not saying that this had a warm bodies effect on me. That was mostly because of the lore that they were trying to shove down our throats more than it was the performances.
mm.
I kind of enjoyed the bits of humor that were in Warm Bodies, as I recall. I haven't listened to that review of ours in a long time, or
You were
re-
very upset. We were both, you were more upset than I was. I think I enjoyed it more than you
yeah.
did, but I was wondering if that would taint your
I mean,
enjoyment.
of course it does because I look at this guy and I remember all I can remember is Warm Bodies, and I'm, uh, but that aside,
Could it be
this
that you're just jealous of his cheekbones, Stuart? It could be just a
maybe
little bit of
I've never
cheekbone
really
envy.
taken a moment to looking within and wonder
Well, they are
where
very much highlighted in this movie. So if
he's
you
so
like
pale.
cheekbones, they're there for you. I thought he was awesome in this, honestly. I
He is.
really
He's very
enjoyed.
funny. His action scenes are totally off the wall and hilarious too. They get funnier as the movie goes on.
And
But
physical comedy wise, like he
yeah,
does an incredible job. And I think that this must have been really exhausting. Like the choreography was very well thought out. And while funny, really probably a pain to get this all to come together
you
well
gotta
and
wonder,
right.
is this Robert Kirkman writing humor? Like,
I
is
don't
that
know.
his pen
Um,
here?
I don't know, but Aquafina is awesome as well. And I have to say, I love her and I've loved her in everything she's in. And in this, I was just I was so happy to see her. And then it was a lot of the fight scenes. She was amazing in them. She did an incredible job.
This both her and Holt are doing like crazy action sequences, and
Yeah,
I don't think either of them come from that like background
no,
necessarily.
no.
But yeah,
And
it
then,
was cool to see her really getting thrown in there. There were some funny edits though, or cuts, like her jumping over the railing of
yeah.
that, and then like suddenly like she reaches out for his hand and then suddenly she lands on the car. I was like, okay, I guess nobody wanted to do that stunt, or it like
Yeah,
didn't matter enough, or why did they do it that way?
I don't
But
know. It's odd, but
I feel like the funniest thing she did was that weird flouncy walk down the hallway she did away
that
from
was
her
really
sister.
when she keeps looking back at her. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
nobody in my theater laughed at that, but I was like,
I
oh,
laughed at
that's
it.
great.
It was so great because she does it like 3 times.
Yes,
It's
she
pretty
keeps
good.
doing it, and I wonder if that was. I assume that's like improv on some point, in some part on her,
Yeah.
because I don't feel like Aquafina really gets to play a whole ton of different parts. She's often just that like yelling, frustrated person a lot of the time, and she's that character a lot here. I mean, poor
Yes.
Kyle really gets just everybody's yelling at him, but she's yelling at most of the people in her life. It feels like.
I think that that's true, but she's also yelling truth. So
Yes,
there's that as well.
yes,
Clearly we're going to be talking about a lot of spoilers, so we're going to really get into the plot here, but I really liked that this was sort of about a side character of Renfield. And in the trailers leading up to watching this film, they had a lot of cuts of different Renfield scenes from various films, which I thought was fun. But rarely do you see something like this where it's sort of like the side character. It and I think you have to. There's a lot of what we do in the shadows vibe going on in this, as well as some of the
yeah.
kind of the Raimi like campiness with the gore and the outrageous like blood and fight scenes that are just absolutely absurd.
Oh
Um
yeah.
but I didn't think, often when you see things like that and people try to do this much in terms of like referencing different films and like poking fun at things, it sometimes goes over the top. And it was an over the top film, but I felt like they blended all of that pretty well in this. What did you think?
I mean, call some out because I'm not sure that I was picking up on references so much as just like some of the Renfield stuff that they were doing, like eating bugs, is like out of the book.
Well,
So
it's
what
out of
are
the book, but there's definitely some Tom Waits stuff going on in a few of those moments with Mr. Holt that are very, to me, very much. And that was the Dracula with Gary Oldman
yeah,
and
the
Keanu
1992 one?
and Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, and
But
Monica Bellucci, Anthony
yeah,
Hopkins,
yeah.
everybody, Winona Ryder, everybody was in that movie. Carrie
Everybody was in
Elwes.
that. But and then in terms of some of the choreography and the just the sort of schlocky campiness, that felt very, and that's why I was like wondering how you enjoyed it, because some of that stuff is very Raimi, which you are not always on board with, like the level of camp. And there was a lot of camp here.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know what it is about Raimi specifically that like turns me off, but I wasn't feeling that in this. And I think it was the humor that I don't feel Raimi usually has enough of, maybe in his to balance his insanity.
Yeah,
But the
fair.
humor, like when he rips off a guy's two arms, and the guy whose arms have been ripped off is like, "Holy crap!" Like he's impressed, and so is Renfield, and like everybody's impressed by what he just did, and then he proceeds to beat up a bunch of people and then spear some people with those like those ripped off arms.
Hmm.
I'm like, you cannot dial this up anymore. It was so bonkers, that scene, but I was just
And
loving
that's a
it.
scene specifically that was crying like Raimi to me all the
You
way.
feel like
But
it? Okay, what is
yeah,
it about that makes you think of Raimi? Because
it
I feel
was
like
just it was just
is that
so.
like Evil Dead sort of
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, and it was just like so over the top and ridiculous, and
Mm-hmm.
there's like a ridiculousness, but I don't know how to. It's sort of like, okay, we're gonna do this even more. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so that was what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah.
But I did like the idea that this whole like film is based around this little kind of like minor character that doesn't get a ton of time in most movies. He's there, but like he isn't usually the center stage, and
He's
it
there to
ended
make
up.
you feel uncomfortable most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now
and
now he's well, he's Nicholas Hoult, so he's got those cheekbones. You can't feel uncomfortable around him even when he is eating bugs. I'm
yeah,
sorry,
and
nothing
it's
is more uncomfortable making than Ben
right.
Schwartz snorting a centipede
Right. Oh
later
yeah,
on in the
that
movie.
was really gross. And then, the strong references that I was feeling, the what we do in the shadows, sort of the pacing and the delivery felt a lot like a lot of the writing felt it's not exactly the same, but it definitely felt like it was, pulling from that a bit. So
Yeah, I would
Um,
say just like Nicholas Holt's kind of look with how pale he was and his hair being kind of everywhere makes me think on some level of what's Barnaby or whatever that guy from What We Do. Wait, are you saying What We Do in the Shadows or that other weird vampire soap opera?
no, What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in
That's
the Shadows, and then I'm not thinking of the right thing. The look and feel of Renfield, the character design reminded me of
oh, Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows
Oh
a
yeah, I
little
guess
bit.
you could, a little bit of that.
The character design at least, and then, but yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, yeah, like less snarky. This was less snarky than What We Do in the Shadows, which I am a huge fan of. Uh, Hell, if they'd brought some of those vampires into this, I would have just gone into like orbit with happiness.
Yeah.
A huge fan of that show.
Um, and then of course there's the sort of more direct like references like the Bela Lugosi Dracula. There's like a scene with that they do like the flashback where
That was an interesting, like yeah, flashback or intro to the movie.
right. So just, they really, I'm sure there's like tons and tons of Easter eggs that you could look up and I'm sure they're all in there somewhere. But those were the ones that really just that definitely stood out to me. But I loved, it was really, to me, the script was excellent. With the Renfield character, the way that they play everything out with the therapy group, I thought was really kind of awesome. So I
Yeah,
was
the therapy group was incredible. What did you also think of the vampire hunter scene at the beginning? Like it was a cool action sequence. It was funny how they started the film with some of that, and then they're like, "Hold up, wait, let's do a little more exposition." It was kind of a weird stop and go, but it also kind of got you into the character and the delivery of Renfield a little bit. The way that they kind of broke you into it. I thought that was actually pretty smart.
Yeah, and I also thought that it just again, Nicholas Hoult does just this amazing job from a physical comedy and just physical acting point of view. Um, he's really got this kind of, I don't want to say goofiness, but it's like this very animated way about him in all of these scenes, and the one where they have the vampire hunters and he's like kind of like dashes in and like slides into the room. It was like it felt very Charlie Chaplin, honestly. Like he just kind of like goes in and I'll like this must have been an exhausting film to make. And in fact, I texted you the sort of like this outtake that never got used, but there's this whole apparently a musical scene with Renfield that just got cut, which looked like it was an enormous amount of effort that they decided not to use.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but I also liked how they look. This isn't like a super deep movie, but it is. They do a good job with what it is and with building his character, but also Awkwafina does an incredible job at establishing exactly who her character is. And continues to go along that and their interactions together and their like relationship, you absolutely believe it. Like there's like an amazing dynamic between those two actors that I thought was just excellent. They had a lot of
Yeah,
chemistry.
I've actually never seen. I mean, I don't know that I would say that they had a great chemistry. Maybe I just wasn't feeling it. But I don't know that I've ever seen Aquafina be in a romantic role. And this wasn't
Oh,
romantic, but they were like kind of vibing on each other.
they did.
In the script, anyway. I don't feel like it was really happening on screen as much as I kind of wanted it to. I guess.
I kind of like that they didn't sort of go over the top and that it was a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah.
I just mean chemistry as actors.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they totally played it off in a really excellent way. So,
She's a
um,
yeah, she really delivers. I mean, I've seen her do a couple one or two dramatic roles, right? But not many. And this is not a dramatic role, but she's definitely more dramatic than in some of her other roles because she has this like dark backstory. So she's constantly like bouncing off of, her dad being dead
yeah.
and her vendetta against this crime family, which is at the heart of the plot. So she she does a good job, I think, of being like that's her backbone, but everything else about her is pure Aquafina, And so I thought
True.
that was pretty cool. Like she did a great job with that, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this must have been a pretty challenging film, working just with the choreography. And I mean, there are a lot of action scenes in this film.
Yeah,
Or not.
and super
Mhm.
intense for mostly for Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah,
Um, so some of the other perform. We're talking a lot about Nicholas Hoult. Now we're talking a lot about Awkwafina. There are other amazing um characters and roles and parts played in this film. Before we get, I want to like talk about Nicolas Cage last, maybe if we can do
yeah,
that.
sure.
Uh, like so, Ben Schwartz plays Teddy Lobo. Do you know who I am? I'm
Yeah,
Teddy fucking Lobo. He yells many times in this film.
yeah.
He is like rapidly becoming one of my favorite people to watch on screen, on TV, in a movie. I don't care. Whenever he's playing a character, it's always a bit of the same stuff. It's always a bit like slapstick and a little crazy, mostly a little crazy.
Hmm.
But I always enjoy it. I don't know if you saw After Party, which was a show that came out like last year or the year before.
No, but he was in he's done a few other things. Like he was like a guest on like Parks and Rec
Yeah, he had an
and
amazing role on Parks
like
and Rec. You still make memes about him
yep.
and his sister.
But I only saw a little bit of the After Party, but
After Party
I've
was a great role for him. He had a whole episode because the show was told from the different people's perspectives as they like explained their role in this murder mystery. And his episode was a musical. It was so good. Oh my god. So I was really happy that he was in this, and then he was like the eldest son, the maybe the only child of the crime family, the Lobos,
yep.
and he is a lot of braggadocio, and then like also completely spineless and a total coward until later. But when he gets arrested and he's in the interrogation room by himself, and I also thought that was a really funny joke. That was
Yeah,
like in the script. That was not just him, but it was him. Aquafina is reacting with her partner in the next room. He's in the room by himself, and he's confessing to everything.
everything.
And
And
I thought that
things
was
he
really
didn't have
funny.
to, they didn't things they didn't even know about. So it was
Yeah,
great. So I thought he was fantastic. I also thought that just the dynamic in the police station with Aquafina and the other police officers was really great. And let her do what she does so well, which is just yell and be really intense, which was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Um, and so that was kind of fun. But Ben Schwartz also, I thought, had a really great dynamic with the he's like this kind of a screw up, even though he's supposed to be the one that is supposedly going to take over this crime family at some point. um and then when you see him interact with his mom, who is Shohreh Aghdashloo, um she is so incredibly good and like commanding, and she's not on screen a ton, but you totally believe it. And the dynamic between those two is kind of amazing too, because there's this whole thing where he's supposed to go and report to her, and it's like the guy's like, oh, she's down in the basement. She is
hmm
terrifying standing there. She's not even really doing anything all that much. Because
Shohreh
it's like
has amazing presence. I don't if you've seen much of The Expanse, you know how she can control a
oh yeah.
room.
And she's like, I'm like, how did you get her to do this?
Yeah,
I don't know, but it seemed like she had a lot of fun.
I mean, her role it makes sense for even for her as an actor. Although, like she's like Persian Ben Schwartz. I don't know how they're related, maybe, but it works. It works. You can believe it that he is her son.
Yeah. Well, you also totally believe she's the head of this, like she's this powerful,
Yeah,
like head of this crime family. And she has this great speech where she's like talking to him, and it doesn't even totally make sense. But she's like, "We are feared," and you're like, "Yeah, I'd fear you. I'd absolutely fear you." And so that's kind of fun. Overall, just having her sort of interspersed between like in these different things. And that's, every time she popped up on screen, I'm like, was she just like, this seems like fun and I'm gonna do it? I don't know. It it's kind of insane the cast that they put together for this.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, the budget was $65 million.
Mm.
So yeah, that's not insignificant. It's not like a super expensive movie. Uh, and I wonder how much of that was like Nicolas Cage and the rest of
Oh, I'm
these
sure.
people. So can we talk a little bit about Nicolas Cage?
Sure, if you want to get to him, let's do it.
He is Nicolas Caging pretty strong. Like we've talked about a couple of other movies.
Mhm.
Mom and Dad, I think, is one where I feel like we really got to see him just let the freak flag fly. And I think he's a little restrained in this one because he's trying to do an accent, and accent work is, I would say, not Nicolas Cage's
No.
most natural place to be. And it really slips in one of his scenes where he starts
Yes, it
yelling
does.
at
Yes, it
uh, at
does.
at
And then
Renfield.
he's just Nick Caging it all over the place.
Yeah, but every so often he'll like make a vowel longer or like not pronounce an R, and you're like, yep, he's still British or Transylvanian or I don't know what the hell this guy is. Um, I will say that the less makeup he had on, the more I was enjoying his performance. It's not that it was bad; it was just he was so restrained and restricted when he had all that like more of the prosthetics and stuff. And I think he had a hard time with his teeth. Maybe it felt like.
Yeah. Well, that was also a bit of a Nosferatu joke, but like yeah, like he had a problem with the teeth, but I think that was kind of deliberate.
Okay.
Um, I also want to pull out this like quote that Ben Schwartz said, which I thought was kind of funny while I was doing the research before we were podcasting. Ben Schwartz, like, as they were like interviewing for this, and he was like, it was an absolute joy to be strangled by Nick Cage, which
Yeah.
I thought was really funny.
That's the kind of thing Ben Schwartz will
Um,
just add to a
yep,
conversation.
yep.
So, did
So
you enjoy his performance?
I thought that he was going to go even more Nick Cage in this, and I think he seemed to be enjoying it, and he was a little bit more restrained than you normally see him. I did enjoy it. I felt like there was maybe like one more scene or some other thing that I would like to see between him and Renfield, that would make sense of their relationship a little bit more. I mean, we see some of it in the beginning, and they start to build that, but I don't feel like we get that. Um, Later on when Renfield's still trying to sort of bring him back to power. It feels like there needs,
He will not wait, accomplish full power. What's the phrase that they start saying?
yeah, I don't
That's
know.
another amazing joke.
Yes, yes, that's
That was
awesome.
in the trailer, but I'd kind of forgotten about it. And
It's really good. It's
by the
really
time
good.
that scene happens, and the Brandon Scott Jones reaction, oh my god, his delivery there was just fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, go on.
No, no, I completely agree. Like I thought that was one of the best scenes in the entire film, and I think that Nick Cage was clearly having a lot of fun with this role. But if there had been maybe one more scene between him and Renfield that had a little bit more of the devotion, but I guess they're trying to show the toxicity, which is fine. But I thought I thought he was fun, and I think he was having fun. And I'd also forgotten that him and Nicholas Hoult were in Weatherman together. So
Oh,
that
I
was,
never saw that. What was Nicholas
yeah,
Holt's role in that?
he was his son. And he was a lot younger, obviously.
Oh my God.
Um, so if you look up photos of it, it's like little Nicholas. He wasn't as obviously he was in About a Boy when he was really young, but this was, I think, like teenage years. So, or like maybe tweeny years. I'm not quite sure, but so it's just kind of fun to have them in this together, and they both seem to have a lot of respect for each other because they talk about each other all the time for all the interviews. So I think it was probably an over like overall a really good experience, and the cast seemed like every time you see any cast member talking about this, they seem to just like almost laugh out loud. So I think it was probably a pretty fun set to be on.
Yeah, I can't imagine that the people in those scenes in the church for the support group, I can't imagine that they weren't just all cracking up between takes. Like the even the running jokes of Renfield bursting in as soon as Carol's trying to do a share. It happens twice, but it's like nailed it. It's really
Mhm.
good. Um,
But sorry, back to Nick
no,
Cage.
yeah.
In that I thought his makeup was done really well, just showing the different when he's not in power or whatever they were calling, when he's like weekend and uh sort of he gets taken out by the vampire hunters, and there's like, they kind of bring him. They do like a staged makeup for him, which must have been a real pain to do.
Hmm.
Where he looks pretty rough, and then it slowly starts to improve. So I thought that that was pretty good, and overall, I thought his makeup was pretty excellent.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he looked fantastic. I mean, his costume, his wardrobe also, and wardrobe in general. I would say everybody kind of had interesting looks in this. Even Aquafina got to wear different tops, despite the
mhm.
fact that she was always in police pants with her
Yep.
police belt. She had like 8 different shirts or variations because, well, obviously she, you know, I yeah, she gets on the wrong side of the law or the right side of the law the whole time. Honestly, everybody else is on the wrong side of the law, if we're being honest.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but I thought wardrobe wise, taking Renfield and it's not one of those montages where people are made hot by taking off their glasses and shaking out their ponytail, but it's like the support group starts giving him advice and he just does it himself, which is great. Um yeah, I so the support group is clearly like a very important part of the story. I don't feel like we've talked about it all that much, but at the same time, like just saying that those scenes are fantastic and all those like kind of background and 1 or 2 line actors who were in this movie do a fantastic job. That's true, and they do, and it's great.
Yeah.
Do you think there could have been more of those scenes in the film?
With the support group.
Yeah, like would it have benefited from a little bit more support group?
I think it would have benefited maybe seeing a little bit again. So this is sort of similar to the relationship with Renfield and Dracula, and then with the support group. If you knew a little bit more, you might feel a little bit like you might feel more sympathetic. We only hear a very short amount. We don't really know what their toxic partners have done to them. We get a little bit from
Yeah,
Caitlin.
just
Um,
Mitch,
yeah,
who
and
happens to be friends with another one of their toxic partners in the
yeah,
support
which is
group.
kind of funny, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny. And I just thought that that would have tied it together a little bit more. But I also am very much in support of how like tight they made this film. It was like 93 minutes. And so it's, often you'll see that they go a little bit too far and go on a little bit too long, but I thought that they did a really good job at editing this, and I am guessing that probably some of the scenes that got cut are the ones that I'm probably talking about. I bet they exist.
Yeah.
But maybe just to give a little bit more background and a little more depth to some of the relationships and why Renfield would even care about going to help some of these people. I mean, he says it and he fills it in, but it would have been kind of cool to show it, right? So that was the only minor sort of criticism I have. But I think that the sacrifice of that was made up for in the fact that the script was super tight. The editing was great, and I thought that it kept moving along in a really good way.
Yeah. It was exactly the right length. By the time they were like having brunch or breakfast at Cafe Du Monde, yeah, it was fine. Like that needed to happen. The kind of pacing, it can't always be insane because that was right after one of their insane action scenes and right before another one. So it makes sense that they would do it that way.
It's interesting because they filmed on location or in New Orleans, but I didn't feel like a lot of this, yes, it was clearly in New Orleans, but I don't know that they utilized that as much as I thought that they would have. Other than that location, nothing really like totally jumped out as New Orleans to me.
Apparently,
Uh,
that Mulate's restaurant is a real place.
oh,
I don't,
okay.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know New Orleans that I've been there a bunch of times, but I wouldn't say I could recognize neighborhoods. So they might have been using them to the hilt and I was just, like, oh,
And
I
it
don't
it
know.
was lost on me, yeah. But I mean, a lot of them were sort of like close in the I don't know. It just didn't. I thought that they would do a little bit more with it, but I think it also has to be pretty hard to film down there just because it's such a small place. And I guess maybe you can cut off some streets or whatever. But
I will say, I mean, you've already talked about the gore, the blood budget that they had might have been a big chunk of that $65 million.
oh yeah,
I really enjoyed watching the gouts of blood that you generally didn't really get on their clothes. There was only one scene really where Nicholas Hoult was covered in blood,
hmm
in that one of his earlier fights. And also just the set design for places like the hospital where Dracula was holding up, like
yeah. It was good.
fantastic.
Great set dressing, and then also the sort of layer of the Crime
Lobos.
Family, The Lobos is really good, I thought. And I also thought that the special effects just with Nick Cage turning into bats, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, every time he did one of those kind of
Smoke
transformations, those were
thing.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Generally, costumes and makeup and everything was really good. They, yeah, it felt good. Like it was a funny movie. It had a tight script that felt like it was made well.
It seemed as if there was probably going to be a some kind of an after credit scene, like it, that people kind of gotten used to it, but it wasn't here, although the end credit sequence has like a lot of like outtakes and different things, which I think are kind of funny. But I feel like they wrapped this up pretty well, and I don't think there will be a sequel, but maybe, I guess that's always possible, but
I mean,
like
what
I
happens
really,
to Shohreh, or Bella
right.
Francesca? She
Well,
disappears.
she just goes into a truck to get arrested or something. I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
did she at the end? I
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
Because because Aquafina says, success is great, and she gives her this really awesome look, and it seems like she's probably not actually going to prison, but she goes off in this vehicle. But I thought that they wrapped up all the loose ends pretty well. I thought that this was, I mean, they could easily do a sequel of this, but I don't know that they're going to. I really enjoyed it, and I think that if you want to have a fun time and just, it's very light and silly and fun. If you liked What We Do in the Shadows, I think you would really love this. And just, I would say that the gore is over the top, so if that's something that bothers you, probably not for you. But
Oh, but
I
it's so comical. Like
yeah,
this
yeah,
is not gore. This is not
yeah.
torture porn or
No,
anything
no,
like
no, no,
that.
nothing like that. It's just very like campy and silly gore.
Like ripping a man's arms off and everybody's impressed and joking
Yeah,
about it, for instance.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Um, I will say that the Dracula blood thing at the end,
Yes,
uh,
it's pretty funny.
it's funny. It's also a little bit like, oh, okay, like there's no consequences. Everything's fine.
Well, it's that kind of a film, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I thought that that was good. But definitely, and then Nicholas Hoult did put up the dancing outtake on, I think, on his Instagram or something, and it was pretty funny. So I think you should definitely check that out if you have not yet, Stuart. But it's I had a lot of fun at this. I think this is just like a really fun weekend movie to go to.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
thumbs up.
I agree. So go out and see Renfield, and oh, you can maybe watch some trailers, or if you go to a cool movie theater, they'll show you clips of other Nicolas Cage projects.
Now we have to watch Vampire's Kiss.
Oh God, yeah, I guess we must.
No, no, no.
Love Jennifer Beals. But hey, you know what? Listen to other podcasts that we've done at reanimated.podbean.com. You can email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. And if Twitter is still a thing when I publish this, then you can find us on Reanimated PCast. Um, I thought this movie was great, and I appreciate you going out and seeing it and letting us talk about it, HA. Thank you.
Awesome, you too. And until next time, ciao.
Alrighty. Bye bye.